freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. What's the news we got now? Fresh humiliation for Eurozone as China says it will bail out debt-ridden nations. China's going to bail out Europe? Why? How? It's going to get worse. What's going to happen with the banks here? So let's go ahead and finish this up with Martin Andelman. He's talking to us about the foreclosures and how that's affecting the banks. And I just wanted to make my point is that it was the ratings of based on if I'm Goldman Sachs and I get the rating houses by, I don't know, whatever green fees and hookers I got to get them to do it, whatever machinations I go through to get them to give the ratings, I go to them, which is kind of this government-sponsored thing anyway. I go in there and I say, this deserves a AAA rating. You go, absolutely, yes, it does. Based on what? Well, because real estate will always go up. Because it's all, the history has always been only this many people, low percentage will foreclose, and AAA. Without actually once I get that agreement, that understanding, well, then of course I'm going to go get the shoeshine boy. Of course I'm going to get anybody with a pulse to sign these things because it doesn't matter. How wrong am I?
No, look, they intentionally wanted bad loans. Towards the end of the bubble, they wanted loans that they knew weren't going to make it because they could buy credit default swaps, which are like bond insurance that would pay off when the bond defaulted. And bond insurance is cheap. It's like usually AAA bonds don't default. So, to buy $100 million worth of bond insurance, a credit default swap that would pay off $100 million cost $200,000 a year for 10 years. It was a 10-year bond. So you could pay $200,000 a year, and if the bond defaults, you get $100 million.
We had a speaker at one of our Freedom Summits that we do. It was Peter Schiff. You probably know who Peter Schiff
sure.
is. Peter Schiff was saying, he's going, look, man, we're going to get a seat on the, we're going to buy these up. Like you're saying, 200,000, we'll pay $1 million. Here's $1 million that's just sitting on your balance. You don't need that nasty old thing. We want to be the beneficiary. We're going to buy $1 million, $2 million, $5 million on $100 million payoff. That's cheap money. And when these started going up, $30, $40, $50 million, then you sell them. I made all kinds of money. And then it's AIG, and they go, we don't have the money to pay off on these. And so who went to the government and said, you got to bail out AIG so we can get our money? Goldman Sachs, Paulson and Friends. I'm going, this was it was the largest bank robbery, and it was planned right in front of our face. And it started with this ratings thing. It was the trigger that allowed them to do what they did. So now let's fast forward, unless I had anything wrong there. Let's go ahead and fast forward. We get to where we are right now. People aren't making payments. They don't know who, has the standing to foreclose on these things. So they go, we're in court, and how do they determine who has the standing to foreclose?
All right. Now, you get to court, and this never happened before because no one ever challenged foreclosures before. But now people started to get lawyers. They started to go to court and say, wait a minute, do these people own the house? Who owns the house? And here's how it works. The Goldman Sachses of the world that had all these loans were supposed to assign them to a trust, and the type of trust is called a REMIC, R-E-M-I-C. You can look it up in Wikipedia, a REMIC trust, and these types of trusts are called pass-through trusts. They don't pay any taxes. You put things in a REMIC trust, and the REMIC trust doesn't pay any taxes. The bonds that are in there, the income stream goes to the investors, and the investors pay the tax, right? Now, in order to get something into a REMIC trust, you assign it, just like you sign a check. You know how you endorse a check? You turn it over on the back, and you put your name on it, you sign it right there, and that endorses it over to somebody else. Well, a mortgage is the same thing. The promissory note is the same thing. You turn it over, you sign it on the back, and that assigns it to the trust. The problem is none of the banks can produce any of these assignments. They said they lost them. They all lost them. All of the banks lost them. I know 13-year-olds that would have a better story than that, but they all lost them. It was a mass misplacement. Then they said they destroyed them. They have one story after another. But, they started, that's where the robo-signer thing came up. If you lose it, you sign an affidavit swearing that you had it. So they got a guy in an office at J.P. Morgan signing his name 10,000 times a month, getting carpal tunnel syndrome, signing affidavits swearing that we had these things when he's never seen one in his life. He has no idea. So now that's come up. Here's the fact of the matter. They never assigned them to the trust. The trust's empty. It has no loans in it. They never did it. They never assigned them to the trust. So they can't produce the note, because if they were to show anybody the promissory note, people could turn it over and go, well, there's no assignment. You didn't sign it. Who did you send it to? Where is it supposed to be? It's not there.
So what are they going to do in court?
I don't know how they're going to fix. I mean, the truth is about this, it may not be fixable. People always say things like, well, Congress will fix it. Like, what would they do to fix it? What do you think they're going to do? Pass a law that says you don't have to assign something to a trust? I mean, we all have trust. You have a living trust. Every home people have living trusts. If you don't put it in the trust, it's not in the trust. I mean, it's that simple. So the question is now, who owns it? Well, maybe the bank owns it. Now, why doesn't the bank just step forward and say, all right, fine, you're right. We didn't put it in the trust. We own it. Well, there's two reasons they don't do that. One, they'll be sued by every investor on the planet for selling them an empty trust, an empty security. And two, REMIC trusts, remember I told you they don't pay taxes, the pass-through thing? Well, if the bank never assigned it to the trust, then the bank still owns it. And that means the bank owed taxes on it. And they didn't pay taxes on it. And that's about 53%. And it would be what I call a reverse TARP. I mean, people should hear this. The banks never assigned it to the trust. That means the banks own it, and that means they owe the taxes on it. And if it's $1 trillion, fine. We'll wait while they can cut a check. We need the money. You can pay us back the $1 trillion in the taxes that you never paid because you didn't put it in the trust.
Okay, now we followed this REMIC thing, and you can do REMIC. It's a real estate mortgage investment conduit or something. I like that. Yeah, I like that conduit part.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
So you do a wiki on that, kind of explains it. But I tell you, I was looking at this because here in Arizona, we went through this with the savings and loan in the late 80s, early 90s. It was like a dry run for this. And when they created these REMICs, I could see what was happening. You looked at the savings and loan, you go, oh, that was just feeling the waters. That was just learning. That was just a test case. It was the banks had it planned to rip us off. And when do you do it? You do it when the retirement and pension money is at its maximum, when you have the baby boomers starting to retire and it's never going to be a bigger pile of money. When it's at the biggest, when the buckets are as full as they can get, that's when you steal it. And it was planned, and they set it all up. They tested it in 20 years ago, and boom, they pulled the trigger. Here it goes. It was just like clockwork. And I'm sure throughout history, they've done the same kind of thing over and over and over. When you give them power over your money, this is what happens. So now we're in a situation to where, do we protect the government? The whole promise that they have is that we're here to defend your life, liberty, property. We're here we're going to be a nation of laws. Okay, well, what does the law say? Who owns the property? Show me the paperwork. Where's the transfer of ownership? How does this collateralize this note? Or they go, never mind. Doesn't matter. We're going to redo it. We're going to do it the way we want to do it. Judges get that, boom, gavel goes down. So I'm looking at the end of this process. But we got just a couple of minutes here. Tell me what you think's going to happen over the next year.
Well, I think the banks are going to have to go on. I think the banks are going to have to go. We're going to have to nationalize these things for a while. That's just the fact. There's no way around that. I mean, the banks are going to have to be taken over. The shareholders are going to get wiped out. Their debt, the bonds they all have out, are going to trade at a discount. We're going to have to take the garbage off the books. We're going to have to sell them back. It's going to cost taxpayers, my God, I don't know, $1 trillion or $2 trillion, and we're going to have to resell them to the private sector and start over. There's no other way around that.
Oh, it's only going to cost us $1 trillion or $2 trillion?
It may, yeah. It'll cost several $1 trillion, no question.
Well, heck,
man.
There's
no choice. There's no option there. What are you going to do?
Well,
they did it.
What they're doing now is that, covering this over, they're doing trillions upon trillions of dollars that they're just giving to the banks, waiting for this all to go, and they'll go, okay, liquidate it. We got the money that taxpayers gave us and inflated the currency, and we'll sit over here and you liquidate, and we'll just buy it up later anyway.
Yeah, and remember something here. Last year, we now know, right, we gave the banks $12.2 trillion into the foreclosure crisis. We put 1/1000th of that amount. So it's like you can prop up bankers all day long, but as long as you got the foreclosure crisis going on, you got a hole in the bottom of the boat. So I don't care how much you want to fill it up, there's a hole in the bottom of the boat. Every time a foreclosure happens, another bond default.
Oh, you guys see where we're at. You know, this is inevitable. There is no stopping it. It's not like if we don't get the Tea Party guys in, this bad thing will happen. It's already happened. It's done, over. And we haven't even got the municipal bonds yet. You know, we got a long ways to go. Got chickens? You better, because you're going to need it. Go get some silver, but put some food under your bed first. Hey, thanks for coming on, Martin. It is enlightening. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We'll see you tomorrow, where I give you a Christmas present.